Hokkaido in northern Japan. At its center lies Asahikawa City. Surrounded by natural splendor, this area is one that the Ainu people have called home since ancient times. In the fall, Asahikawa welcomes a season of prayer, with traditional Ainu ceremonies being held. This year, there was also a special ceremony to celebrate the completion of a Cise, a home unique to the ancient Ainu. The Ainu are the indigenous peoples of Hokkaido and surrounding areas. They have their own language and believe that spirits reside in all things, and have developed a unique culture, including prayer and dance to honor their deities, the Kamui. Many Ainu still live in Asahikawa, carrying on their cultural practices. These people are protecting and preserving their heritage, including traditional ceremonies passed down through generations. This program will showcase the richness of the Ainu culture and focus on its essence. June 2022. This is Arashiyama in Asahikawa City. A structure known as Cise is being reborn. Arashiyama is a sacred place. It connected the Asahikawa Ainu and the deities they worshipped as Chinomishiri. This place is the final resting place for vessels of the deities, such as skulls of the sacred animals, which have been seen off in returning to the heavens. The ancient home of the Ainu people, a Cise, has been recreated to be used in traditional ceremonies, as well as being open to the general public. The largest of the three structures, the Poro Cise, is being rebuilt due to deterioration for the first time in 13 years. A Cise is made of only natural materials. These materials differ by region, but in Asahikawa, they use sasa bamboo. Sasa bamboo is gathered from the mountains. This is Kawamura Haruto. Born and raised in Asahikawa, he is working to preserve Ainu culture. He spoke about what kind of sasa bamboo is the best for use in a Cise.
The most obvious point is the thickness of the stems. It's completely different to the touch. Most of these bamboo leaves have thick stems, but it's no good when the stems are too thin. They can even snap when you touch them. These don't snap at all. The size and number of leaves is also important. If the leaves aren't big enough, they'll look bad when woven into the Cise, not to mention that they might not stop the rain and let water through.
Methods for gathering sasa bamboo and detailed instructions for building a Cise are not written down in any manuals or literature. The Ainu have passed on their culture orally and through experience within their daily lives.
Even if I know how to do something, it will be meaningless if there's no one left to pass on the knowledge after I'm gone. I'm still 23, and I'm thinking about teaching in the future as well. But I'm focused on learning right now.
The harvested sasa bamboo is given to the weaving team.
It's tied at about 1 to 1.5 centimeters at the base of the leaves. It's tightened then strung around 2 of the 3 stems and locked in. This will hold it in place.
The method of weaving sasa bamboo into all of the ceilings and walls of a chise is known as sasa ami. It's woven together tightly to prevent rain leakage and decay. These members are taking time out of their daily chores and jobs to help in the work. Parents and locals teach the younger generation who are building a chise for the first time. Sometimes enough high-quality sasa bamboo cannot be found.
These leaves are too small. The leaves are soft and the stems are thin. Completely different. It's a waste, so we move them to the back and put the best ones forward. We believe that everyone is one leaf, and we're bound together.
None of the gifts from nature may be wasted. This is a philosophy that the Ainu have treasured as they have existed in harmony with their environment. Asahikawa is the second largest city in Hokkaido, with a population of over 300,000. With tourist spots like Asahiyama Zoo, over 5 million tourists visit the area each year. This is Mount Asahidake, the highest point in Hokkaido. The Ainu of Asahikawa have long worshipped Mount Asahidake and the other mountains in the Daisetsu range as Kamui Mintara. Starting in this mountain range and flowing across Hokkaido is Ishikari River. It's one of the largest rivers in Japan, with the second widest drainage area. The Asahikawa Ainu once made their home upstream of the Ishikari River, hunting, gathering, fishing, and trading for a living. It is a precious place that provided them with salmon and other fish, as well as being an invaluable trading route. In 1869, the Japanese government renamed the Yaomoshiri, or Ainu land, from Ezochi to Hokkaido, and implemented large-scale migration and land development plans. This is also when the Ainu living upstream of Ishikari River were forcibly ordered to relocate by the local government. The leader who stood up for them was the head chief, Kuchinkoro. Not only would relocation cost them the foundation of their livelihoods, but also severe hardship. Kuchinkoro's resolute protest of the government successfully had the relocation order rescinded.
If Kuchinkoro Ikashi hadn't worked as hard as he did to protest the Ainu's case to the local government to rescind the order and stop the relocation of the Ainu, my parents and many others might not have been born. Which of course means I and many others wouldn't have been born. And I believe he's an important individual who deserves great respect.
Ainu leaders were required to have many skills.
A proper appearance, and bravery, and eloquence, physical dexterity. These are all qualities that I learned a leader should have.
Kuchinkoro used the power of his words instead of violence against the government. The Ainu found a nobility in the way he solved problems peacefully. However, the law was later changed to relocate the Ainu to a reservation, and they were forced from their home area. The Asahikawa Ainu that were living in the vast region upstream of Ishikari River were relocated to an area known as Shikabumi. And as time went by, they were joined by Ainu living in the mid and downstream areas of Ishikari River. Researching Ainu history at Hokkaido University is Professor Tanimoto Akihisa.
I'd like to explain characteristics of Chikabumi's area as follows. Ishikari River flows into an area with many buildings, which is the urban area of Asahikawa. To the south of the urban area is property dedicated to the imperial household. The Ainu were relocated to an area further away, to an area established for them on the other side of Ishikari River. At the time, they were relocated far from the urban area and imperial property. They tried to squeeze all of the Ainu living throughout Asahikawa into the same place.
However, Asahikawa would later go through a great change. This came to pass with the opening of the Kamikawa Railway Line in 1898, as well as the deployment of the Imperial Army's 7th Division in 1899.
With the railway, Asahikawa was connected to Sapporo and Tokyo, which caused it to continue to develop. The 7th Army Division was established, with many soldiers and their families arriving. That accelerated the urbanization of the city. An Ainu settlement was basically established within the city. This was the major difference between Asahikawa and the rest of Hokkaido.
As the city grew, interacting with the non-Ainu Japanese, known as wajin, became a normal daily interaction, and the Asahikawa Ainu worked diligently to convey their culture accurately. This is the Kawamura Kaneto Ainu Memorial Museum. Opened in 1916, it is the oldest Ainu museum in Japan at over 100 years. It is known for being built by the Ainu themselves. Its founder was Kawamura Itakishiroma.
I doubt it was an era that values diversity like we do today. The people back in the Meiji period would essentially just label the Ainu as inferior and discriminate against them. We Ainu have lived in Hokkaido for a long, long time, along with our Kamui deities, and I think that Itakishiroma wanted people to fully understand us.
Continuing to correctly teach the history and culture that the Ainu people have protected, they continue to strive toward coexistence with the Wajin Japanese.
We want the tourists who come here, whether Japanese from outside of the prefecture or even from other countries, to know that the Ainu still exist here in Hokkaido and learn about us. We also want it to be a place to express the wishes of those who have passed away.
A peculiar industry grew out of the city's settlement. Carved wooden bears, now a common Hokkaido souvenir. Many origins have been speculated over the wooden bears, but one story is that they began among younger Asahikawa Ainu. Matsui Umetaro was one of them. He would carve expressive and realistic bears with superb skill. They became popular, and many wooden bears would be carved in Asahikawa from then on. Following the 1950s, there was a tourist boom in Hokkaido, and the demand for wooden bears soared.
Even normal households were selling wooden bears from their doorsteps. Customers would buy their favorite bear. They had their choice of designs. Asahikawa was really full of them.
Nakai Yuriko is an Ainu pattern artist who was born and raised in Asahikawa. She recalls there used to be vocational training sessions held for wood carving and other jobs.
People would hold workshops on how to carve bears, and then they would sell them to the tourists. There were no machines back then. Everyone was hammering away with chisels. It was quite a ruckus, from dawn till dusk. Children would do the finishing, painting colors and other light work. Entire families worked on them.
In addition to the wooden bears, other handcrafted goods became a new way to make a living.
People weren't staying quiet, but proactively sharing their culture, sharing it in a way that taught others what happened and asserting their rights as well. The way this method of sharing their culture continued from the Meiji era that began after the 1890s until before World War II was a unique point in the history of the Chikabumi settlement.
A variety of efforts are being made to pass on Ainu culture to future generations. A group working to share Ainu culture in Asahikawa is visiting a local elementary school. The students were captivated by the Ainu version of rock, paper, scissors. Having children experience the Ainu language and dances gives them an entryway into learning more about Ainu culture. One of the instructors is Sugimura Arito.
There are very few young people working to carry on the Ainu culture at the moment, so we want more of us in Asahikawa to join us in helping to teach the next generation.
The Ainu language wasn't the only part of the cultural experience that some children fixated on. This is the Asahikawa City Museum. They're making bookmarks with Ainu motifs. The museum is also holding an exhibit along with the bookmark making class, helping to deepen understanding about the Ainu.
Because the children are growing up in Hokkaido, I hope they can have a deep understanding about the people who came before and about their culture and history.
These traditional Ainu mats, called chitarape, are weaved from a type of reed known as gama. The traditional method of using small rocks to weigh down the attached warp ends and weave the reeds is how chitarape are made. Participants even go down to the riverbed and gather the materials themselves.
I couldn't find very much this time. Last year I found about 5 times as much.
With changes to the natural environment, the number of wild plants has fallen. Participants learn not only about how Ainu used to live, but their challenges today as well.
Everyone understands how hard it is to find materials and the gratitude toward nature for providing it for us. I hope I can teach what my parents taught me to as many people as possible. whether they're watching Ainu or anyone else.
One ceremonial tool essential to all Ainu rituals is inau. Kawamura Haruto was demonstrating how to harvest sasa bamboo earlier. He has also been making inau for ceremonies. Inau are offered to the kamui in ceremonies, connecting the deities with human beings, and are used for many other purposes as well. Inau are gifts to the kamui, which transform into gold or silver when delivered to their realm, and greatly pleases the deities.
The most important thing in my mind is the feelings that go into it. It's a gift for the deities, so I work with a solemn mindset. My thoughts are for the deities. It's a precious time for me.
Making these inau is a special practice in which one must face the kamui. Back when the Ainu would traverse the Ishikari River by boat, kamui kotan was feared for being difficult to navigate. Prayers are offered to the kamui, and traditional ceremonies of protection are held every fall. It is known as kamui nomi. Kawamura and other young Ainu of Asahikawa take the lead in the ceremony. Inau that Kawamura and the others crafted are offered to the kamui.
There are very few people carrying on the Asahikawa Ainu traditions. Asahikawa and other regions don't interact very much these days, and I hope to bridge that gap so that Asahikawa Ainu like me can cooperate more with the other areas.
This year, a Cise in Arashiyama was rebuilt for the first time in 13 years, and a ceremony to celebrate its completion was held. The ceremony to breathe life into a Cise, Asir Cise Nomi. Using the inau, the sacred alcohol is given to the kamui. This ceremonial tool is named ikupasui. As the sacred alcohol reaches the kamui and the ancestors, the ikupasui is said to have the power to fill in for any lacking words of prayer from the human side. Offerings are made to the fire kamui, declaring that the Cise has been completed successfully. As inau are offered to the Apehuchi Kamui, the ceremony draws to a close. This is followed by instrumental and dance performance offerings to all the kamui. Finally, the participants all form a circle to perform a dance.
This Cise took the most time to finish of any that I've ever worked on, so it's also the one that I feel the most deeply about. I hope to continue protecting traditions like these and working to pass the knowledge on to the next generations to come.
Exploring the lands of the Ainu. The Ainu people thrive within the city and continue to share their culture. The wish for their history and culture to live on is what drives each and every one of them and is building the future of Asahikawa. This program was made possible by the Upapoi National Ainu Museum and Park.